You know, I haven't one done. I haven't done this type of videos in a minute. It's been a long time. It has. It really has. Just I've been scared. Okay.
Pussy.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I have. These videos with these kids come with nowadays is freaking insane. Like, oh my god, like, it honestly is. But you know what? I found a couple videos in store for this. I did a little digging. I think this is gonna be a really good video, a really good scary video that's gonna scare the shit out of me and you. Okay, it's gonna scare the shit out of you too. I know it. So, if you guys are cool with that, down with that, make sure you guys go ahead and grab a snack, fluff a pillow, fluff it. Let's get right into this video. Let's go. Alright guys, so first video we have today is called 8 Food Delivery App Horror Stories Animated, brought to you by a channel called Martin Animations. Now, we're not going to watch the whole thing because the whole video is 38 minutes long. We might watch a couple clips or whatever because I'm going to get into some other channels as well. But see, the thing that I really wanted to watch with this one was because I used to do some door dashing, just to help get some money for me. And I ain't gonna lie, it probably was one of the scariest things. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I freaking live in New Jersey. It's not really like, it's not really all that bad. I have DoorDash in like Philly area a couple times, but I was too scared. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I'm curious what these situations was, and I'm curious because if it could have happened to me. So let's go right ahead and see what's going on.
I used to occasionally deliver for DoorDash on the weekends. This happened about a year ago, and at the time DoorDash was new to my area. Not many people used it, but if you worked at the right times, you could still make well above minimum wage.
Most definitely.
It was a Friday night, and I got a request in the app to deliver to a house around 8 miles away. The house was on a deeply wooded back road, with absolutely no streetlights. Like, literally, if you turned your headlights off at this time of the night, you were completely blind. I delivered to a house in this area once before, but that was when it was light out, which, trust me, is a way different scene. The house seemed pretty similar to a lot of the other houses in the area, secluded looking, and right on the edge of being able to comfortably call it abandoned. I pulled up to the house, and because of the limited visibility, I decided to keep my car's headlights on while I dropped off the food at the door.
Of course.
But to do this, I had to keep the keys in the ignition. And so I did. I figured it wouldn't be the end of the world if I left my car running for an extra 30 seconds.
Exactly, yeah.
I took the bag of food to the front
running.
door. I knocked a few times, and waited about 20 seconds when my phone went off. I was getting a call from a blocked caller ID. I decided to answer it in case it had anything to do with the food I was delivering.
I always think that too.
It was some man who sounded completely normal. He explained how he was the one who placed the DoorDash order, and he then asked me if I could just bring it to him around back. I was already sketched out as is, and so I told the guy no way. If he wanted his food, he needed to come to me up front.
Facts.
But to that, the line just went dead.
Yo, I ain't gonna lie. I know I make a lot of jokes about like what's like some survivors or like what some video game like players I play with. Like, I know I make a lot of jokes saying like, oh my god, like, you need to be doing this right, you need to be doing that whatever. Like, yo, how can you be so stupid? You know how I make those jokes a lot of times. I ain't gonna lie, in this situation right here, I'd be like, okay, and like I would have went around back, like, because I want the money. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I'd have been done for if that was me.
I told myself I'd wait at the front door for 1 more minute, and if this guy didn't show up, I was just gonna leave. Maybe 30 seconds passed, and the guy did show up. The front door opened, and I looked at the dude. He was wearing a black ski mask, and was just standing there looking at me. I held out the food, but he made no reaction. That's when the guy yelled out, "Alright, now." Right as he said this, 3 men, also wearing ski masks, came sprinting out from around the back of the house towards me. My flight reaction kicked in immediately, and I ran straight to my car. I opened the door, put it in drive, and had the pedal to the floor in no less than 2 seconds. The men were able to hit my car a good amount of times before I was able to drive off. With what, I don't know, but something strong enough to break my back passenger side window and make a few other dents. Not even a minute into driving
I'm about to say,
I
the
got
car
2
just stopped?
back-to-back calls from a blocked caller ID that I can only assume were both from the same guy. I let both calls ring until they stopped. I was shaking uncontrollably and still
Jesus
struggling to regain my
Christ.
composure. But after a few minutes, I calmed down enough to call the police and report the incident. And that was that. I don't know what ended up
Holy
happening,
shit.
and I genuinely don't want to know.
Ditch your phone, bro.
I've tried to distance myself from the whole situation as much as possible. It's beyond terrifying for me to imagine what those guys had planned for me that night. A part of me thinks it was just to rob me, but another part of me thinks they wanted to kidnap me, or worse.
The reason why I said ditch your phone is because, like, you never know people nowadays. So people are really smart nowadays to the point where, like, they
This
can just
happened
trace
back
your
in
phone
2019,
easily.
on a Friday night in January. I had just gotten back from work, and was honestly way too tired to make my own food.
I know
I
that's
always
right.
heard good things about food delivery apps, and so I figured that night was the perfect night to finally download one and try it out. I just downloaded the first one that showed up. I then made an account, placed an order at a semi-nearby restaurant, and turned on Netflix to watch while I waited for it to arrive.
Why don't you just call the
Now,
place?
It's worth mentioning that on this night in particular, there was a lot of snow on the ground. The app said the delivery would take around 20 minutes, but I figured that didn't account for the terrible driving conditions. I honestly assumed it would probably take double that. I can't remember exactly how much time had passed, but it finally got to a point where I figured I'd just forget it and cancel the order. But right before I did, I got a message from the driver. Word for word, the message read, "Can't find your house. What's your personal phone number?" Now, you gotta remember, I had just downloaded the app that night.
Bitch!
So, I didn't know if it was common or not for drivers to ask for their customers' personal phone numbers.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
I
I
ended
don't
up giving
blame
it to
you.
him anyway.
But
Around
but,
10 minutes
but,
later, he
but bro, you do realize you're communicating with him through that right there, the messaging. So automatically you should be thinking, hey, we're already communicating, so why does it matter? That's what you should have said to yourself, but it's okay. Because obviously my dumb ass
Contact
was
me.
ready to
But not over a
Go
phone
around
call
back.
like I expected.
meet the other guy
The
from
guy
last video.
texted me, saying he'd be at my place with the food in 10 minutes. This unsettled me a bit.
How did
I
that?
was under the impression he needed my phone number so he could call
Yeah.
me and get better directions. But
So how
I just
did
tried to
he-
brush it off.
Okay.
Around 10 minutes later, I would get another text saying he left the food on my doorstep. I went outside to get it and sent a text back thanking him. I figured that was that. But around midnight, I would get another text. It was the delivery driver. The text simply read, "I really liked your sweatshirt." This was now getting extremely weird, as the text suggested that the guy had stayed to watch me grab the food from my doorstep. I tried to play it cool, and responded with something like, "Haha, yeah, thanks. It's pretty nice." I can't remember everything that was said next, but it was some string of multiple texts that were something along the lines of, "So how's your night going? What are you up to?" and various other seemingly harmless messages.
Is it a bitch
these, I
texting
didn't
you?
respond.
Because I want to
At
know.
the end of the
like,
day, I told myself I didn't know
get
this
out my
guy,
face.
and I had no obligation to keep a conversation going. So, I just went to bed. But come morning, I would wake up to 20-something texts, and multiple missed calls all from the same number. It was again that same delivery driver.
Got a little
Last
crush on you.
text was sent at 3 a.m., and as I scrolled through the texts, two in particular caught my eye. One of them read, "I'm outside your house," and the other said, "I can't see anything through your window. It's too dark." But that wasn't even the worst of it. I would later go outside to find footprints in the snow that I knew for a fact were not there the other day. Meaning, this guy wasn't joking. He had actually showed up to my house, and by the looks of the footprints, had walked around it multiple times. I've since moved, and haven't received another text from the number. That
Wait,
was the first
you
and only
moved?
time I will ever use a food delivery app.
Wait. He moved. Yo, that's like the that's the smartest thing I ever heard anyone ever said in any horror situation. Because anybody else would have, especially in like, with like other horror stories like The Conjuring and stuff like that, with their like, haunting your house and all that. Like when they didn't move, when they could have, paranormal activity. You know what I'm saying? Like those type of situations, paranormal activity, all them. Like they could have just moved, but this man actually he actually just like ended the story right there, basically. What the fuck? Like, that story could have went on longer, but no, he just said, nah, we're at it right here. That's crazy. Alright, let's get into one more
I'm 27
one for this.
and currently out of work.
We'll move to another
I recently
video.
got laid off at my job, as the company I worked for was starting to go under. So, in an effort to keep up with the bills, I started delivering for Uber Eats part-time. A couple of my friends suggested it, and so I figured I'd give it a try until I found another job. To my surprise, it was actually good money. The only thing I didn't like was some of the places the app had me delivered to. I live in a city with a lot of sketchy areas. I try to stay away from those areas while delivering, but there's only so much you can do. This night, a Saturday, I got a McDonald's order. I usually don't accept those ones, but this night was strangely dead. Which was weird. Saturday nights are usually the busiest for Uber Eats.
Trust
Anyway,
McDonald's.
I pick up the order and start heading towards the address I'm given. Instantly, I realized it was not in the best area. But by this point, I decided to just suck it up. I pulled up to the house, and right away the vibe was off. It was completely dark with not a single light on in the house. Usually there's at least a light on upstairs, or something that would signal someone being awake and waiting for their order. But the house seemed dead. Nevertheless, I put the car in park, turned off the engine, grabbed the order, and started walking towards the door. I walked onto the porch, and as I reached for the front door, I saw it. The door was slightly cracked open. I knocked, and as I did, the door opened slightly more.
Oh my god, bro.
I yelled out that I had an Uber Eats order, and right away, some man walked to the front door.
My nigga.
As if he had just been waiting right there. As he got closer, I got a good look at him. Now, I'm not one to judge a person by their physical appearance, but this guy was practically covered head to toe in tattoos.
He on
The guy
drugs.
looked extremely intimidating. Definitely not someone you'd want to mess with. He had this look of frustration, or almost anger on his face.
Yeah, he's on drugs.
He was staring at me dead in the eyes. I lifted
yeah.
up the bag of food.
Oh yeah, he's on
grabbed
drugs.
it. The guy then started reaching in his pocket.
Drugs?
I figured he was going to give me a tip.
Drugs?
But no. Before I knew it, the guy was holding a hunting knife and pointing it in my direction. My stomach dropped, realizing the situation I was now in. I was either going to get robbed for everything I had, or worst case scenario, killed. My mind was now racing. Thinking as fast as I could, I turned around towards my car, screamed at Derek to grab the gun, and put my hand in my pocket to start my car's engine from a button on the key. But there was no Derek, and I was in no way armed. But I figured if I could somehow convince this guy I was, I gave myself a chance to get out of this.
I like that. Yeah.
All I could do was pray that the threat along with the vehicle starting would be enough to convince this guy I didn't come here alone. And luckily it was. The guy shoved me back and slammed the front door.
Nice.
I ran back to my car
That was
and
so
practically tore the door
smart.
off trying to get in. I got out of there as fast as I could. I would of course end up calling the police, but I never heard anything back about whatever ended up happening. I assumed they didn't find anything, and that the guy was long gone by the time they arrived on scene. But I can't confirm this. If there's one thing I'm sure of, it's how fortunate I am to own a car with a remote proximity key, as I don't think the guy would have bought the whole act if I didn't start the engine.
Oh my god, that's so
I
tough.
still drive for Uber Eats every once in a while, but I've since started carrying a knife on me at all times.
Alright, yeah. I definitely kept a knife on me. I definitely kept, my first day, kept a knife on me. I remember that. Whew. Yeah, guys, DoorDashing is not, it's not safe. It really isn't. Especially I always aim towards the nighttime to do it. Like around like 5, 6 o'clock, because that's usually when it's better time to do that. But it's dark. I always just checking my surroundings, everything. I remember one time I pulled up to this house. It was like going in the woods, and it was like going down a hill, going in the woods. It wasn't like as far, like it's not as like deep as in the woods as you're thinking. It's like, oh, it's like on a road. As soon as you turn, you go like a little slight down a hill. It's the only one in there, and then it was just a house. It had no like lighting or anything, and yeah, it was just, I don't think there was no lights on in that house. And I got out the car, just had my knife in my pocket. I told him it's my knife all the time. Had my flashlight out. As soon as I flashed it over, I seen like some guy. He was just walking out. He was just walking out of his house. Automatically, yo, my heart, I was ready, but like, he just said, like, yeah, that's my food, man. And I was just like, oh, all right, you got a normal voice.
Wow.
There you go. And I just left off just like that. There was a lot of couple times where I was just scared shitless. Just definitely was. But yeah, just be careful when it comes to driving for food delivery apps. But let's go right ahead and get into the next video. Alright guys, so the second video we have today is called 14 Dark Web Horror Stories Animated. And this is the 2021 complexion. And this is from Dr. No Sleep. Now, we're not actually going to watch the whole 2 hours. We're not doing that. I just want to watch a couple because dark web stories are like one of my, not favorite, just things to hear about because they're so interesting. Like, the dark web is just so scary, and I can't believe just like the fact that these people are just not getting caught. I understand why, but I understand why they're not getting caught, but it's just so unbelievable that these people are not getting caught. And this is actually one of my biggest fears is I don't know, getting kidnapped or something and being shown on the dark web. That's actually one of my biggest fears. But let's get right ahead and jump right into this.
Dr. Nicely.
Oh, bitch just whisper in my ear like that.
Ever since I was a kid, my favorite part of Easter was the long-anticipated hunt for candy-filled, delicious eggs. My parents would always make a big deal out of it with a dozen clues scattered around the woods behind our house, each more complex than the last. In hindsight, they were probably ridiculously easy, but to my 10-year-old self, I felt incredibly intelligent solving them. As I grew older, I had little time for the annual Easter hunts. I either had college or work or dates. It dawned on me that an era of my life had passed, but I still felt nostalgic each year as the holidays came around. But then I found a dark web forum, specifically designed for these kids of hunts and mysteries. Though they weren't exactly centered around Easter, they had an annual competition around that time, one usually taking place online, meaning all of us basement dwellers could partake. They were a great deal of fun, and significantly more complex than the ones I dealt with as a child.
So,
I loved it.
escape
and though
room.
I wasn't the brightest of the bunch, I did all right. Through that forum, I made a couple of great friends, both better than myself, Lewis and Robbie. We'd never met, but we'd formed our own little group, joining competitions but never winning. But it wasn't about the prize. It was about the thrill of chasing after new riddles, never knowing exactly what lay ahead. The community wasn't large, probably holding little more than 30 active players, but we were all more or less friendly with each other. Oh my god, I saw my ex's name on that list. Then, in the spring of last year, we were all invited to the site's first actual treasure hunt. We'd all have to show up in person, and we'd be divided into teams between 3 and 5 people. Obviously, I stuck with my friends, and only 15 people actually agreed to the in-person challenge. But needless to say, the hype was real. We would all be picked up.
Wait, okay, listen, I get that he is trying to live his childhood fantasy, whatever, just keep going on with this whole Easter egg hunts, solve cases, whatever the hell you want to call them. But you don't need to go on the dark web for this stuff. There's escape rooms for this stuff. Stuff that's free. Not free, but stuff that's legal. It's legal. You don't have to hide around it. It's legal. It's right there. You can look it up on Google.
It meant we had to spend a few hours in the back of an uncomfortable truck.
Bro, see, this is what I'm talking about, bro. What?
To give us the most intense experience. But based on the site's prior reputation and quality of games, we weren't in doubt. Each time we would be transported separately, meaning I had some time to get to know my team face to face. We practically knew everything about each other already, but to see them was a whole other deal. "Zach, is that really you?" Lewis called out as the driver put him inside the truck alongside me.
Huh.
I gave him a big hug, finally able to meet one of my best friends in person. We got to talking, eagerly awaiting the arrival of Robbie, who'd be the last pickup before we headed to the games. Though the 3 of us couldn't see where we were going, we could feel the road getting bumpier as time went on.
So basically, this is like Squid Games, basically.
Away from the city. I felt a bit nervous, but the anxiety was quickly extinguished by the excitement. After 5 hours on the road, we were finally there. As we jumped out, we were greeted by a beautiful, mountainous view with lush, green forest as far as the eye could see. Behind the truck stood a massive facility, looking partially like a warehouse that had been quickly set up. It must have cost millions upon millions to bring everything out there.
So basically,
which
this
was
is like Squid
odd,
Games.
considering it had all stemmed from a dark web page. The waiting area looked like any other lobby with a desk and a receptionist. There were no other teams there, but a screen held their name on a high score list, showing they had all already attempted the game. Where are the other teams? Robbie asked. Finished already? They were disqualified after failing various rooms. At this point, Team 5 had the best score, the receptionist said.
Yeah.
I peeked at the screen, seeing the list of teams and how far they each made it. Team 1, Room 4. Team 2, Room 7. Team 3, Room 3.
Damn, Team 3
4,
is ass.
Room 8. Team 5, Room 9. Team
Wow.
6, Pending. How many rooms are there? I asked. Just 10, she said with a smile. Are you ready? We looked at each other. We knew we weren't the best of the bunch, and if each group before us had failed, we didn't exactly feel confident. We're ready, Lewis said. With that, the woman escorted us into the first room. It was a plain room covered in white panels, only interrupted by a numerical keypad, a camera to observe us, and a timer that was counting down from 5 minutes.
What in the jigsaw is
You have
this?
5 minutes per room before the penalty kicks in, the woman said.
Penalty.
What penalty?
Exactly.
I asked.
You're
I
asking
think
the
it's
right
better
questions.
if we let that be a surprise, she said with a smile before closing the door. We looked around the room for loose panels and a way out. But then, the white panel started blinking in a fixed pattern, always in a different color. Hey, look at this, Robbie said, as he pulled up what looked like a piece of tinted glass. He held it up against the blinking lights. It was a filter, and by looking through it, numbers were revealed in the middle of the colorful lights. I see all the numbers, but which order do they go in? Robbie asked.
Well, keep.
I've seen a similar puzzle before. I guess we're supposed to put them according to the electromagnetic spectrum. Try blue, green, yellow, red. In that order, the code turned out to be 7364, which stopped the lights and opened the door into the next room. That wasn't too bad, Lewis said.
I would have never guessed that.
The next room wasn't
I'd
too
been
hard
dead.
either. It was a generator room with an empty fuse box. Our task was to put the right fuses in the right places within 5 minutes. Only Lewis made a mistake, giving him a firm but seemingly harmless shock. Escape rooms aren't supposed to hurt, he called out. He took a breath while he finished the puzzle, gaining us access to the third room. It looked like a hyperbaric chamber used to house divers working under oil rigs. As the door closed behind us, our ears popped from the sudden increase in pressure.
Damn.
Wow, that's a bit too realistic, I said.
The fact
What's
that they
that?
just they're
Robbie
not
said as he
catching
pointed to
on to
what
what's
looked like a
going on
patch of
yet.
blood. Blood? That can't be real, right? I asked.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
The timer had already started.
This is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. He's still so naive to the fact that like you in Squid Games, bro. You in Jigsaw Land, bro. Like this is, bro. What? The fact that you have. You know what? I'll keep going.
And a barometer hanging on the wall was casually letting us know that the pressure was increasing. Hey, Rob, you used to go diving, right? I asked. Yeah, why? How much pressure can a human body take? I asked. He peeked over at the increasing pressure. That's really bad. With the way the pressure is increasing, we'll be dead in 5 minutes.
Bro,
he said.
they
My
just
ears
saying
were
that
hurting.
so
And then the rooms
casual.
were created. The blood and the increasing pressure was all too real. We started waving at the cameras, futilely begging to be let out as the timer ticked towards 0. Let's just do the puzzle. The puzzle itself wasn't all that complicated. It was just a set of gears and valves that had to be put in the right locations. Within 2 minutes, we'd solved the puzzle, by which time the pressure was already on the brink of physically incapacitating us. We stumbled into the next room,
Wow.
the sudden drop in pressure causing us to collapse.
The game will only end when you die, or if you complete all 10 rooms.
A voice said over the speaker.
You are now in the break room. You have 10 minutes to rest before entering the next chamber.
No, fuck this. Let us out, Lewis called out.
Enjoy the break. Don't forget to enter the next chamber afterwards.
The woman said over the speakers. We gotta find a way out of here, Lewis said, still not able to stand up properly. It took us about 5 minutes just to recover, at which point we tried to tear the room apart, desperately looking for a way out, to no avail. It's pointless. Look at all this. You don't think they secured all the exits? Robbie argued. So we just play along? That blood in the pressure chamber wasn't fake. It belonged to one of the groups, I shot back. Do you have a better plan? Robbie asked. The timer had already ran out,
Bro.
at which point the walls of the room started closing in on us. We had less than a minute to escape. With great trepidation, we entered the fourth room. It looked like a carbon copy of a high school
What the
classroom.
fuck? Why did it just
full on with
was
the
Star-
gum-covered
like
tiny
the
desks
Star Wars
and a poorly
4
cleaned blackboard?
fucking-
We looked around, trying to quickly figure out the tasks, but the only feasible way out appeared to be 2 buttons that looked like light switches. One was stuck, apparently requiring a key to open, and another that activated black lights. Then the timer
Ooh.
started once again.
Oh, damn.
Screw this, Lewis called out. The black lights lit up the blackboard, showing what looked like a random arrangement of letters. Are those anagrams? Robbie asked. I don't think so, I replied. I quickly looked over them. Knowing anagrams fairly well, I could immediately tell that the words weren't mixed up. All of them were either 3, 4, or 5 letters in length. Half a minute had already ticked away, at which point, a few of the panels in the ceiling fell off. Spikes fell down from the ceiling, almost hitting Lewis in the shoulder.
Wow.
Oh, God, he yelled. It superficially cut his arm, causing a few drops of blood to fall to the ground. That's when I noticed all the outlines on the ground. Clearly blood splatters lit up in the black lights. They'd been poorly cleaned up, probably to let us know about the consequences of failure. In the chaos, another 30 seconds passed, and another few of the ceiling panels fell to the ground, letting spikes shoot towards the floor. Come on, Robbie yelled. We have to get out of here. I took another look at the blackboard when I realized a pattern. If they were all 3, 4, or 5 letters, they could be numbers. I got it. It's a mixture between a Caesar cipher and an anagram. Shiftgram? I don't know what they're called. It was easy enough once I only saw 2 equal words with 5 letters, which could either be 8 or 7, but there were no repeating letters, which meant they both had to be 8. Based on that, I was quickly able to figure out the code with a full minute to spare. 94838, I shouted. The code was correct, but even though Robbie had already input the code, the counter would keep going until we left the room. At 30 seconds, another few spikes shot from the ceiling, one shooting through Lewis's chest. He let out a
my
whimper
nigga
before immediately
Lewis!
dying from shock. Lewis! We both called out, but it was too late. Come on, Robbie said as he dragged me away from the oncoming spikes. We just about survived the 4th room, but Lewis was gone.
Bro, you
Still,
got
we
6
didn't have
more
time to
rooms,
rest.
bro.
There were still 6 more rooms remaining. The 2 of us collapsed to the floor in a mixture of disbelief and exhaustion. We'd barely escaped with our lives, but with just 2 of us left, we knew the next set of rooms would be an almost impossible task. We gotta go back for Lewis, I called out in shock,
That nigga dead.
knowing it wouldn't make a difference. Robbie sat in silence, just observing the new room. I'd been too numb to notice where we were, but once the adrenaline started to fade, I quickly understood what the next puzzle would be. It was Lewis's bedroom, at least the little we could recognize from the background of his
What?
webcam we'd seen. The wall was filled with more than a dozen vintage posters from his favorite movies and video games. He'd always been kind of a nerd, even more so than us. How did they make this? Robbie said in shock. I don't know. Maybe they were watching our streams, or maybe they've been inside our rooms. Do you think the other groups went through this exact room? I asked back. I think they personalized some of the rooms, he said as he just shrugged in defeat. So what do we do? I'd already seen that we needed a 4-digit code to unlock the door. I figured the code would be the year of his favorite movie release. The problem was that he had several. I couldn't say for sure which poster was the correct one. I think it's Alien. So, 1979? I half asked, half stated. Robbie typed in the code, causing a beep to emit throughout the room. That ain't it. How about... Before Robbie could finish that sentence, the timer cut down a whole minute.
Damn.
A clear penalty for inputting the wrong code. With a total of 5 minutes, we'd only have 4 attempts before the final wrong code would kill us. Try A New Hope, I called out. 1977? It was another mistake, cutting away a 2nd minute. Try The Godfather, I shouted. Robbie input 1972, which finally seemed to be the correct code. The door opened, and we quickly moved on to the 6th room. What now? Robbie said, sounding more annoyed than confused. The room was completely dark, illuminated by the dimmest of lights, a hanging light bulb that barely lit up the outline of the room. The flawless, black walls didn't help the situation. Do you know what we're supposed to do? I asked. He just walked up and down the walls, feeling for any imperfection.
Yo,
he let out a yelp
this
as he tried to
narrator
cross
is
over,
so
falling to the ground
well
and hitting his knee.
detailed.
He groaned. There's a hole in the middle. Even with a light, the hole was practically invisible. It stretched down an unseen amount into the darkness below. It was just barely enough for a grown man to crawl inside, but knowing the theme of the game, I knew what had to be done. You think one of us has to go down there? I asked. I knew Robbie suffered at least a significant case of claustrophobia, and with such a narrow, dark place, I knew it would be an impossible task for him. He didn't even respond, and despite the darkness, I could tell his face had turned pale from the realization.
Oh my God.
I just can't. As he uttered those words, a strange flushing sound could be heard from beneath us. The timer had already counted a minute of time away, and one of us had to go down the hole. It was going to be me, whether I liked it or not. It's all right, Rob. I'll do it, I said. I put my legs over the edge of the hole, trying to feel for a bottom. All the while, the noise of flushing water kept getting closer. As I stretched out my legs, the surface of ice-cold water touched my leg, and I realized that with the decreasing timer, the water was rising. You sure there's nothing else up there? I asked. I'm sure. I checked each wall. There's nothing. The water had already reached my knees. Our method of death would be drowning unless I could find the opening to the next room. So I jumped into the ice-cold water and dove down into the darkness. It was a long tube, with barely enough place for me to turn around, and not a single shimmer of light to guide my way. I could hold my breath for an absolute maximum of 2 minutes, but that might not be enough.
Nice.
It took me almost a minute just to reach the end, where I found a lever. I pulled it, which switched on lights that illuminated the tunnel I'd swam through. I could feel the oxygen drain from my body, so I turned around and prayed I would make it in time. Once I reached the end of the tube, the room had been half filled with water, but a small hole in the upper part of the room had been opened. As the water reached a high enough level, we could easily swim through, allowing us to enter the 7th room. Thank you, Zach.
God
I
damn.
don't think I would have made it if I had to go down there, Robbie said. No problem. I managed to get out between labored breaths. Where are we now?
Alright guys, so I'm gonna end the video right here for this. That was honestly really interesting and a little disturbing, I must say. Both that other story that we seen, the little Squid Games, Jigsaw games that we just seen, that was honestly really interesting. Like, yeah, wow. But anyway, it's been kind of like dry lately content wise. You know, that's kind of the reason like why I've been uploading. The only thing I can really like think of is just like reaction videos. Not that many new games is coming out, and I'm just waiting to see like what is going to be in store. So if you guys have anything in mind, just let me know. I'll always, you know, just be open for any ideas you guys have. You know, just hit me on Instagram, comments, whatever. Do what you got to do. But until next time, hey. Tell a friend you got a channel, okay? Deuces.